Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover 120 here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review, and this movie review is going to be for the 10th installment in the Friday the 13th film series, and that, of course, for the film that really takes up all the campiness, is probably the most goofy Friday the 13th movie out there, and that is for none other than the campy, and I'd say fourth worst, but actually probably the best of the bad ones in this franchise. And what people think is the worst Jason movie to most people, but not to me, as for none other than Jason X. Yeah, the most wacky and silly of the series. That really took the campiness of the franchise to a whole new level. So, what is this movie about? Well, this movie, in kind of a way, ignores the events of Jason Goes to Hell, and is technically, it's kind of a sequel. It takes place after Freddy vs. Jason, and is set in the year 2008. Jason Voorhees is cryogenically frozen in a government facility in Camp Crystal Lake, along with scientist Rowan. Many centuries later, in the year 2455, Earth is uninhabitable, and humans have moved to another planet known as Earth 2. However, a team of students awakens both him and Rowan on a spaceship known as the Grendel. Jason begins killing the students and crew of the ship. Along the way, he is upgraded to Uber Jason, and it's now up to Rowan and the surviving students to stop Jason, this time on a spaceship. So yeah, this movie is Jason in space. Yeah. Then again, like Pinhead went to space, and one of those few movies where the killer goes to space. Like, this movie sent a large following away from the franchise in utter disbelief. And I will say that, and yes, Jason X is actually really different from Friday the 13th. Very different kind of experience for the franchise. It kind of seems like it's meant as a spoof and a farce on its own franchise. You take Jason Voorhees, put him in Crypto Freeze, then thaw him up in a distant future and put him into a spaceship. And it is, of course, a matter of taste and personal reference whether or not you like the 10th movie and its divine turn from its usual formula. I think it's okay at best. I think it's the best of all the bad ones in this series. And see, has a fun approach to the franchise, and I actually do not think this is the worst of the series, guys. It's not a good movie, but it's certainly actually kind of fun to watch. More fun to watch than some of the other bad sequels we got. The effects are still fun and good. You've been witnessing all throughout the series of the movies. There's a good amount of killings in Jason X, of course. As in all these movies, and there were some good laughs here as well. And Jason X is also the final Friday the 13th movie to have Kane Hodder as Jason Voorhees. There's more than enough of a reason to watch the movie, and a special appearance by none other than David Cronenberg, too. Like I think, once again, what I don't like are really the killer. I mean, no, not the killers. The characters are probably what I don't really like of this movie. Especially kind of the Robocop chick. Really, not really a big fan of her. And I do like Uber Jason, but I don't really like his design. Like, his design kind of looks like an action figure. Some giant 200-pound action figure. Like a stop-motion puppet. Yeah, that's kind of what he looks like in this film, but I still kind of like Uber Jason. Like, you might think that by the 10th Friday the 13th film they'd be running out of vendor ways to kill people, but in this you'd be mistaken. Especially with the new outer space setting. Once Jason comes out of his 45-year nap swinging, slamming VR space campers against a tree while they're zipped up in a sleeping bag, and shatters one scene even has him shattering another young lady's face against a table after shouting into liquid nitrogen, which are mentioned a couple kills. Like, all in all, like, it's a fast-paced, raucous, good time. The twists and turns are innumerable, as Jason is presumed dead no less than 3 times throughout the film, and eventually falling victim to an explosion only to be resurrected as Super Jason. It's likely ridiculous. So yeah, this whole movie actually ignores the events of Jason Goes to Hell. Like, if you skip Jason Goes to Hell, you wouldn't really miss much. And moved on to this film, I don't think you'd really miss much because they don't mention Jason Goes to Hell at all in this film. Although technically, I would still recommend watching Freddy vs. Jason first, since this is kind of takes place right after Freddy vs. Jason. At first, it takes place in 2008, which is a year before the remake of Friday the 13th was released, ironically, before taking place all the way in 2004 and 55. Yeah, technically, with the exception of Freddy vs. Jason and the remake, this also kind of is the final installment of the original series to have Jason solo. Like I said, Freddy vs. Jason is the last one of the original series to be released chronologically, but it's kind of set years before this movie. So in a way, Freddy vs. Jason would be kind of like somewhat of a prequel to this film. It's a definite improvement over Jason Takes a Cruise Ship, A New Beginning, and also an improvement over Jason Goes to Hell. However, if you're looking for scares in this movie, there are no scares in this movie. So if you want scares, I probably wouldn't watch this movie. It's still well made. It's mostly a science fiction comedy. The film is set on board a space station. The majority of the dialogue is one-liners. Jason's makeup is kind of toned down a bit considerably. He's not a rotting, walking corpse here. Here he's just a guy in a hockey mask, or robotic, Robocop-like dude in a hockey mask. And that works for this movie in a way. I kind of liked it that way for a change. And like I said, I'm not a big fan of the characters. They're fairly dim, but Friday the 13th doesn't really have a lot of good characters for most of the films. Although the characters aren't as repulsive as some of the ones in a couple other installments of the series, yeah. And some of the cast members, Lexi Joy, King Hodor as always, and Peter Mensa, do surprisingly well with their characters in the material. That's the biggest asset for this film. So, yeah. Now, my final verdict. If you like the Friday the 13th movies and finally want a breakaway from the usual setting of the Voorhees movies of Crystal Lake, and want to see Jason in a much more different location for a change, and not just rehashing Crystal Lake over and over again, and want a different kind of formula, I give this movie a watch. Whether you like it or hate it, I mean, personally, I don't think it's a good movie. I think it's the fourth worst, but however, of all the bad Friday the 13th sequels, this one I'd watch the most. Because it's entertaining, it's stupid, but it's actually probably one of those so bad it's good movies. This this movie is actually kind of fun to watch. I mean, compared to Halloween Resurrection and Freddy's Dead, especially, and Jason Takes Manhattan and Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, I think this one is easily better than those. Like, some people can say it's the worst, but in my opinion, it's a kind of fun watch. Maybe not a good movie, but still a fun watch for what it is. So, yeah. It's fun for what it is. And here's how I'm going to rank this movie.
I am going to give Jason X a 5.5 out of 10.
Alright, that wraps up my review for the 10th installment of the original series, Jason X, and the final installment to feature him solo, of the original series anyways. So, you all want to know what's next? I'll go get it. I'll show you what the next one is. Do. So, our next movie is none other than yeah, Freddy vs. Jason, my long-awaited one in the series. I cannot wait to talk about this movie. I am so pumped. Because this movie is a blast to watch. Yeah, the characters aren't great in this movie, but I don't care. This movie is just fun to watch from start to finish, and I'm so excited to do this next. I can finally get to this moment. The long-awaited review. Yeah, the next one is Freddy vs. Jason. So, that review, I'll be wearing both Freddy Krueger mask, the fedora, and the Jason mask on my face for that review to fit in with the crossover. Yeah, so anyway, that will be it for this review. Thank y'all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Movie Lover 120.